What's up, everyone? Welcome back to Dave's Adventures in Super Hexagon. It's been a little while since I've done this, and in that time you might expect, hey, I've been training under a waterfall or some shit. No. I've been training under a waterfall of rust, if anything. So we'll see how this goes. Spoilers, though. God, my voice cracked. Oh, man, this is off to an awesome start. Maybe I'll regress backwards through time to where I was better at the game. Okay, there we go. Yeah, not even gonna bother explaining that. Audio problem I had to take care of real quick. So as I was saying, if you think this is gonna end well, you have not been paying attention. Pop culture references. Plagiarism's screw-up younger brother, whose rich uncle always manages to bail him out of jail, and thus he never learns the important life lessons that failure was meant to teach him. Fuck. This is mental. Oh my god. I don't know why I even started with this. It's like, I want to say it's that fear of failure thing, but I don't possess such a fear, at least not with video games, at least not with this one. Where, like, say you have a room full of people. Let's just go and turn that down while I tell this story, while I spin a yarn. If you have a room full of people, God, by contrast, that looks so much slower. That's nuts. God. Going into bullet time. So say you have a room full of people, and you set up a basketball net. You hand them all a ball, and you say you can make a shot from anywhere in the room. You can do a layup, you can go for a two-pointer, you could go all the way across the room for a three-pointer. Now the interesting thing is, you might imagine that most, if not all of them, would probably go for the easy layup. And that's partially true. A large chunk of them will go for the layup. But at the other extreme, there will be a large contingent of people who go for the three-pointer. And that's not because they're that confident in their abilities or anything similar. It's actually the opposite effect. It's generally caused by a fear of failure. And the reason they take that long shot is because they know that they don't have the expectations of people heaped upon them to make such a difficult shot. So they intentionally go for the hardest shot, knowing that if they fail, it was expected. You'll see a lot less people going for the mid shot, the two-pointer. Because it's the one people have a higher expectation of you to make, and while also still being somewhat challenging. So if you fail that shot, you feel way more devastated than if you had just done the layup for an easy point, or if you had failed as expected on the three-pointer. And I tell you all of that so I can tell you this. Super Hexagon is fucking hard, guys! It's hard, but I love it. Can't stop reiterating that. It's so addictive. It's fiendishly absorbing. Did I already make the Operation analogy? That's like trying to play a game of Operation inside a rave that is held in a room that's constantly tilting? One of the things that I like to do on difficult execution-based feats in games, I like to look up a video of somebody else doing it, and it's not to see if they have any special technique or strategy in approaching something. It's more of a mental thing. It's more of just reminding myself that this thing is possible, that it's something that a person can accomplish, and just the act of seeing it completed is enough to put it in perspective for me and really give me that shot in the arm that I need. But I'm not, in the middle of a recording, I'm not gonna tab out, pull up a YouTube video and go, yeah, you know what? Someone did hit 7 straight hours in the hardest hyper difficulty. The other issue is, if you're trying to do something that's never been done before, it's pretty much impossible. Go home, pack your bags, don't even bother trying. You see, I am a little bit like the Wu-Tang. My advice is, most of all for the children. I like to fancy myself the white ODB. In fact, no, don't. Please. I was gonna say, in fact, please refer to me as white ODB from now on. But that would be really horrible. It would be like the worst possible way to interrupt my daily life. God, no. I just want to beat this. I've already accomplished that goal on easy. I just kind of went here to, cut my teeth a little bit further and shake the rust off, and to tell a few stories that just meandered forever and ever. Kind of like Super Hexagon. Alright. Let's at least work on a medium for a little bit, because I believe that's where I left off. Yeah, I believe that's where I left off, as if I accomplished more than just hitting 70 seconds on easy the last 2 times I played this. Recorded it, rather. I don't know if I talked about this before, because again, that gap in recording. Hold on. One of the things I really love about Super Hexagon, and similar games of a similarly challenging nature, stuff like Super Meat Boy, Hotline Miami at times, which I bring this up in a Hotline Miami video I just recorded, is that because I believe in my own justice. I don't know why Metal Wolf Chaos keeps popping into my head today. Something I love about this and similar games that have come out recently that follow this kind of design ethos is that your punishment for failure really isn't all that severe. Because it's just like that, the snap of a finger, you're back into it right away. And it helps to keep the game at a really quick pace. There's that one that I always screw up. Helps to keep the game at a really quick pace, and it alleviates the frustration that accompanies failure in most games by diminishing your downtime to a point where failure is really acceptable by comparison to a lot of games on the road to success. Most games make you afraid of failure, and they frustrate you with their penalties, and I understand the design ethos behind it. It's to give weight to failure and success. It's to make the success more gratifying. Again, I had talked about that in Demon's Souls episode titled Effort Justification. And it's similarly to make the concept of death or failure, whatever your fail state is, less appealing. You can kind of find a good counterexample in the BioShock series, where all failure is you respawn at a Vita chamber or whatever, and enemies only recover a little bit of their health. I think they later added an option to remove Vita chambers or turn that functionality off. They essentially act as checkpoints, except for the fact that progress is not reset. Not completely anyway. The slate since your last death isn't wiped clean. And it promotes this playstyle of death rushing things, to just throwing yourself at a problem and brute forcing it because you can. Even if you're playing on the hardest difficulty in BioShock and you come woefully underprepared for a Big Daddy fight, you can just chip away at him, get killed, come out of the Vita chamber, and keep chipping away and away and away. And it's a slow, tedious way to play, but it shows you what happens when you don't make failure matter. It's an extreme example of that, and it's certainly not the only design ethos you can follow, as evidenced by pretty much every other game. Nothing quite does it like Bioshock. And I don't know where I was going with that thought, unfortunately. I meandered on the Bioshock story so long that I lost my train of thought completely. Please don't die here. Yes. Cool. Made it out of danger. That in and of itself is dangerous thinking in Super Hexagon, because you're never, ever, ever out of danger. It's not so much that you were ever out of danger as it is danger just... It took a brief little 3-second sabbatical once you complete a pattern. And that sojourn of it gets shorter and shorter as you increase the difficulty. You know, I'm noticing failure. Failure is a common occurrence in Super Hexagon, but the theme of failure, the motif, is recurring pretty frequently throughout this episode, so I think I'm just going to title it Failure. Which is weird because it's been a pretty light-hearted episode, and that sounds like such a oppressive, negative thing for a title. If there is one thing I would like more people to take away from games, from life in general, it's that failure is not the end-all be-all. It's not something to be feared. We learn through failure. We learn through repeated failure, often. And I think the most important life lesson that you can learn, especially early on, is to not be devastated when you don't find success, especially not immediately. You're going to be very, very bad at things. And the more time you spend at those things, the less bad you're going to be at them. And eventually you're going to be pretty good. It's a lesson I try to impart on my niece all the time. I have a phrase, a quote that I really love, and I don't know who to attribute it to because I've never heard any consensus about who the author of the quote is. The quote is, a smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. Did I say scalar? A smooth sea never made a skilled sailor. For instance, my Bastion LP was... I still look back on it as just horrendous. And that was like a year and a half ago, 2 years ago that I did that. And I think the improvement is pretty noticeable, and I learned to get better through failing. Experience. Experience is the grindstone that we cut our teeth on. And it is a close partner with failure. And we need to, as people, learn to not fear failure, but instead to embrace it and learn our lessons from it. It's way more valuable to fail and actually gain something from the experience than to lead an empty life full of success. Oh, bitch, monkey. Eloquent philosophy on failure and an approach to life, followed by the phrase bitch monkey. That is, I think, my cue that I still have a lot of learning left to do in the whole, live commentating thing. And again, that is why I do this, because it is fun. It's for the longest time, I told myself I used to be really, really terrible and anxious about speaking, and I consider myself to be a pretty excellent writer. So I kind of hid behind that as an excuse to not face my anxiety about just articulating and learning to be better at it. I told myself that, I'm a writer, so I don't necessarily have to be good at speaking. It's not... That's the thing I always told myself. It's not a talent. It's just not a talent I naturally possess. That's what I am. I write. I'm not a good speaker. So that's just the way it is. And I kind of accepted that as a given for a really long time. And I started doing a podcast with a couple friends, and it was rough, but that and starting to do more public presentations and speeches for college classes kind of started to teach me that, hey, no, I was really just being a jackass, and maybe it's that I haven't exposed myself enough to practice to hone and harness this skill set. And that turned out to be the case. So between the podcast, all the public speaking I had to do, and now the Let's Plays, I've actually learned a lot just about presenting and being able to think on the fly and articulate my ideas in a clear, focused way while multitasking. Doesn't always come off great, but I think it is a testament to the traps that we place ourselves into when we fear failure, and when we tell ourselves things like, oh, I'm just naturally not good at that. I don't have an aptitude for that. I recently found out that I had for over 20 something years. I'm not forgetting my age, by the way. I'm trying to think of, like, when I first started internalizing my whole, like, oh, I'm just not good at math shit. But for a really long time, like, nearly 2 decades, I kept telling myself, you know, I'm just not good at math. And I repeated that to myself so many times because I just don't find math interesting, so I would rather find excuses not to do it. I repeated that to myself so many times, I internalized it. And what I found had wound up happening was I would freeze up whenever I had to do math on the fly, and it became one of those things that I tricked myself into believing I wasn't good at it, when in fact I can pick any kind of mathematic concept up very, very, very quickly and completely understand it. I don't have an interest in it, so I don't study it, and it doesn't stick very long. So I discovered that it's not that I'm not good at math, it's that I just don't like it, and I don't study when it comes to that. Or when it comes to mathematic topics. Topics in mathematics. And I tell that very long-winded story in the one that preceded it to try to convince you, if you have any of those same insecurities, anxieties, doubts in yourself, that in all likelihood you are probably capable of way, way more than you think. It's just a matter of whether or not you want to embrace failure enough times to really bring your potential out. And I believe there was a second thing, but hey, I have the brain failure today. I don't know what it is about 3 a.m. when my clock hits 3 a.m. that attracts me to playing Super Hexagon, but I feel enriched for having had this conversation with you guys. And it's not like, don't take it as me preaching at you like you're children, but it's a very natural state to be in, just as a person, to have those kinds of doubts and insecurities. I would implore you all, if you have something that you tell yourself you're just not good at, if you have an interest in it, if you think of it like something you would like to be good at, put the hard work and hours into it. And on that thought, I'm gonna cut the episode. I'm not sure if I'm gonna do any more recording of Super Hexagon tonight, or not sure when the next episode is gonna be recorded. Having fun with this series, though. Like to get better at the game. All in good time, though. Thanks for watching, guys. If you like this episode and want more content like it, be sure to go to my channel, check the playlists out. I would appreciate it if you guys would subscribe, tell your friends, favorite videos, like videos, comment, do all that fun stuff. I'm pretty active about responding to people's comments and PMs. Don't always get around to all of them. Some of them aren't really questions or open-ended enough to respond to. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. Take it easy. Have a good one.